I didn't realize it at the time. But just minutes after my wedding, my husband lied to me and walked out. 2 weeks later, when the photographer called and showed me those photos, I discovered he hadn't gone to the hospital at all. That day had seemed perfect. Lights sparkling, music flowing softly, guests laughing, and me, Isabella, still floating in the surreal moment when I had whispered, "I do." David was standing beside me, the center of everyone's attention, smiling, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. Everyone seemed to think we were perfect together. And at that moment, I thought we were too. Then his phone vibrated. At first, he ignored it, continuing to smile and shake hands. But I noticed the slight flicker of tension cross his face as he checked the screen. When it vibrated again, he excused himself, saying he needed to step aside. "Everything okay?" I asked quietly as I followed him just a few steps away. He locked his phone quickly and forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, everything's fine," he said, though I could feel the hesitation in his tone. He picked up the call. I couldn't hear the conversation, but his voice was low, urgent, careful. He glanced around, making sure no one was listening, speaking with precision and control. I could see it. Something was off. A few minutes later, he returned. His face was calm again, but I could see the flicker of tension in his eyes. He stopped in front of me, lowering his voice. "Isabella, I need to go," he said, almost too casually. "What, now?" I asked, confused. "My father, he's very ill. The doctors say it's serious." "I have to be there," he said, his tone steady but carrying a weight that made my stomach twist. Concern immediately took over. "Oh my God. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "It all happened suddenly," he said, forcing a smile. "I just found out myself. I'll handle it." "You stay here." His gaze flickered again. There was something in the way he avoided eye contact that made me hesitate for the first time. "Are you sure?" I whispered. "Yes," he said, squeezing my hand for a second. "It's better this way." I nodded, trusting him, because I had no reason not to. I didn't know then that the hospital story was a lie. That the phone call was the start of a secret life he had kept hidden from me. 2 weeks later, everything I believed about my husband and our perfect marriage began to crumble. My phone rang, and the voice on the other end made me freeze. "Isabella, you need to come to the studio. Don't tell anyone yet. You need to see this for yourself," said Derek, our wedding photographer. My stomach twisted. My hands trembled. What could be so urgent that I wasn't allowed to tell anyone, not even my parents? When I arrived at Derek's studio, he didn't waste time. He gestured for me to sit in front of his computer. The first images were harmless. Our wedding smiles, laughter, celebrations. I forced a smile, trying to calm the tightening in my chest. Then he paused on one photo. David, my husband, was handing an envelope to a man I didn't recognize. His jacket shifted slightly, revealing the outline of a gun tucked discreetly underneath. I couldn't breathe. What is this?" I whispered. Derek didn't answer immediately. He opened a browser and pulled up a news article. My heart stopped. David Mercer, linked to international organized crime syndicate. Police actively searching. My perfect husband, the man I had trusted with my life, was hiding a world I could never have imagined. I felt like I had been living a lie. I rushed home in a daze, shutting the door quietly behind me. I opened David's laptop, something I had never dared to do before. Hidden drives, encrypted emails, transactions, multiple identities. Everything pointed to a life I didn't know existed. And then I saw it, a date marked ominously. Shipment, wedding night. My wedding had been a cover. Panic surged, but I forced myself to think. David had underestimated me. He assumed I would be oblivious, easy to control. But I had instincts. I could observe, analyze, and survive. For the next few days, I acted normally around him, watching silently. Every gesture, every call, every visitor was recorded. I mapped his patterns, studied his associates, memorized his routines. The more I uncovered, the more I realized I wasn't just a witness. I was a target. My identity, my life, my future were all pieces in his game. Then came the trip he called a honeymoon. Inside, I knew better. This was another layer of his life, another lie carefully hidden beneath smiles and vows. I agreed calmly, masking my tension, letting him think everything was normal while I stayed alert, every instinct screaming that this was more than just a romantic getaway. David seemed calm, joking quietly, pretending the drive was just part of our honeymoon route. But his phone never left his side, his eyes flicking to it every few seconds, and I noticed how he occasionally whispered into it, tone clipped, urgent. At a secluded highway stop, he stepped out, muttering about a crucial matter that needed immediate attention. His back was turned as he walked toward a black SUV waiting in the shadows. I didn't hesitate. I stayed back for a second, pretending to stretch, then subtly followed, keeping my distance but never losing sight. My heart pounded. I knew his world was dangerous, that a single wrong move could cost me everything. But the truth was too important to ignore. From the safety of a nearby alley, I watched him exchange an envelope with a man I didn't recognize. I barely dared to breathe. Every subtle gesture, every whispered word, every glance over the shoulder, I recorded it all. I kept my phone hidden, discreetly snapping photos, logging license plates, capturing faces. Once David returned to the car, unaware that I had observed him, we continued to the hotel. I waited until he had retreated into the room, leaving me alone in the lobby. Before I began examining the evidence I had gathered over the past weeks, proof I had quietly collected from his laptop, hidden USB drives, emails and secret financial ledgers. Encrypted files revealed shipment dates, aliases, and covert operations that tied him directly to organized crime. Receipts and correspondence confirmed the wedding itself had been a cover, a shield for a far more sinister agenda. I carefully photographed everything, cataloging it meticulously, knowing that any misstep could cost me my life. Once the evidence was secure, I contacted the authorities. They were cautious at first, but the level of detail, the timing, and the credibility of the proof convinced them to let me be part of the plan. I became a silent operative, providing insight only I could offer, giving them a map of David's patterns, movements, and contacts. The next few days were tense. While David continued his operations, oblivious to my involvement, I coordinated with the police, observing his behavior from a distance. Every phone call, every errand, every seemingly casual meeting, I tracked them all, providing a roadmap for the raid. Finally, the day came. The warehouse was dim, sprawling, crates stacked high. David's men moved with precision, unaware that every step, every whisper, every exchange had been reported. I stayed back with the authorities, monitoring live feeds from strategically placed cameras, heart hammering as I watched the operation I had pieced together unfold in real time. And then, just as the deal reached its peak, the raid struck. Shouts echoed, men scattered, sirens blared. David's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized his network, built meticulously over years, was crumbling before him. He had planned everything. Except me. From a safe distance, I observed, every nerve on edge, yet every second calculated. When the chaos settled, I finally stepped outside, feeling the sunlight wash over the devastation of a life I had unknowingly shared. I had survived betrayal, danger, and deceit. I had uncovered the truth. And for the first time, I understood that trust is never given freely. It is earned, tested, and sometimes seized. Police had David cuffed, dragging him toward the squad cars parked under the dim glow of streetlights. Men scattered around, some trying to resist, but it was over. The operation had succeeded, meticulously planned, thanks to every clue, every move I had anticipated. I stepped forward, keeping my eyes on him, heart racing but steady. My voice barely shook when I called out, "David." He turned his head slowly, eyes locking onto mine. For a moment, his smug confidence faltered, replaced by disbelief. The dangerous aura he always carried now felt vulnerable. You were everywhere," he said, voice low, tinged with anger and astonishment. How did you do all this? I took a slow step closer, letting the silence stretch before I answered. You made one mistake. You underestimated me. I watched, I recorded, I documented every move, every secret, every lie. And when the time came, I handed everything over to those who could stop you. His gaze flickered from my eyes to the small stack of printed photos and USB drives I held. The evidence of his double life, of the wedding that was never about love. Love, of all the operations he had hidden from me, it was all there undeniable. You used me, I said, voice breaking slightly, but controlled. You used my love, my trust, my heart, but I loved you. I truly did. And that's why this hurts more than anything. A dangerous, twisted smile curled across his lips, the kind that had always made my stomach churn. You think you've won? He asked, calm, menacing. You think this changes anything? I met his gaze unflinching. You took everything you wanted from me, but I survived. I love no one like I loved you, but I will never forgive you for this. Never. He laughed quietly, a low, chilling sound. You did well, Isabella. But remember, you've made powerful enemies. Watch your back. The police finally pulled him toward the squad car, and I stepped aside, taking a deep breath. Sunlight broke through the early morning haze, glinting off the car mirrors, reflecting the destruction he had left behind. Days turned into weeks. The authorities confirmed he had received a life sentence, imprisoned for crimes spanning years. Justice, finally. Yet every now and then, as I drove along the highway or walked past my own home, I saw it. A black SUV, lurking in shadows, parked silently. A memory of danger, a whisper that my fight wasn't entirely over. I reminded myself, with every heartbeat, that I had survived what most never would. I had faced betrayal, danger, and deception, and emerged stronger. And though David Mercer was behind bars, a part of me knew the world he inhabited never truly let go. I had learned painfully and clearly that love could be weaponized, that trust could be used against you, and that survival sometimes demanded more than courage. It demanded vigilance, cunning, and a willingness to fight for the truth, no matter the cost. I had survived, and now I would live cautious, aware, but unbroken. I couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were still watching, that the game was not yet over.